Greetings, all Shardvixen here. All right, this is brain food, things we think about. Sometimes it can be real factual kind of fact things, and then sometimes they can be, as this new series is going to be about, is the History's Greatest Mysteries, based by History Journal, which is a magazine that my mother gets and sends to me periodically. I'll look for a link for that, put it down so you can link it. Today, it's about the myth of the Ourang Mehan ghost ship. Now, originally, the ghost, if you go to Wikipedia and look at it, it is confusing as heck, because they talk about a story that came out in 1948, but really, the story originally came out in 1940. And come to find out, it is said by one person who in 1948 is talked about is that person is a reporter for newspaper who talked to an Italian missionary who supposedly talked to the one of the crew member from the ship. Now, I decided to go, after doing some research, with a story, a review of the story by a person called Estelle in the Skittish Library, which is a UK newspaper-like thing that has old newspapers and stuff like that. So this story came out in December 29, 2015. It says, the story of the ghost ship of the Ourang Mehan has never been as famous as that of the Marie Celeste, despite it being more gruesome in details. The entire crew, ship's dog included, were found dead with their mouths open, their eyes staring, and yet there was no sign of what had been responsible for their deaths, bar some desperate SOS messages sent during the tragedy. Okay, that's it. That's all anybody knows. The difference is in 1940, there wasn't a whole lot of information, and in 1948, the information changed some, which I will talk about in just a minute about it. It's a mystery in more ways than one. Not only has much time been spent trying to unpick what might have happened on board via many ever more fanciful theories, but there's a large school of thought that says the story is actually pure fiction. Okay, that's my belief. I think it's pure fiction. I think this guy, this Italian guy, maybe heard it, saw it, thought it up, whatever, and then, or maybe something did happen in 1940, but he didn't get all the parts right, and it wasn't that freaky or whatever, and then he changed it, then he changed it for 1948, and it becomes this more interesting kind of story that makes people want to find out about it. It's like one little bit that he had to say, and then he didn't say nothing, then it didn't get. She speculates, or this person, Estelle, I don't know if it's male or female, speculates that the author, the reporter, probably reported it, didn't get the notoriety that they were looking for, and then reported it again in 1948 and got more information for it. The hard thing about it is that the information bounces back and forth so that you feel like it happened in 1948, but how would they know about it in 1940? And there's lots of little differences between the two. So maybe you have two ships that similar things happen to. Or more likely, one person, which is what this person, Estelle, speculates that the reporter didn't get the notoriety that he wanted, so then he went and made it a different story. It says, nothing's been conclusively proved either way, except I think I've found some evidence that will change the story for good. As far as I'm concerned, my new information proves that it's merely a modern fabrication, an urban legend, or whatever nautical equal of that would be. So, I agree with this person based on the fact that there is no information. I mean, you can disagree or agree, or you can add more if you found some other stuff online. I will put down some videos, information. I will not have watched them all, but you could look at them and see, and they're probably going to say pretty much the same thing. So the synopsis is that at some point around June 1947, an SOS message in Morse code was sent by a Dutch freighter ship, the Ourang Mehan. The ship was in distress in the position of 400 nautical miles southeast of the Marshall Isles in the Pacific Ocean. The message was both cryptic and chilling. As received by the U.S. ships, the City of Baltimore and the Silver Star, the first message said, SOS from Ourang Mehan. We float, all officers, including captain, dead in chart room and on bridge. Probably whole crew dead. Some more gibberish follows, and then the second and final message sent by the doomed radio operator was received. It is simply said, I die. Okay, so the Silver Star located the ship, and its crew boarded the ship, which appeared to have suffered no damage. They found the crew were dead to a man, and all the corpses laid on their backs in a forward manner, eyes staring, mouth open as if screaming, looking as if they were horrible caricatures. I know that word. It's like portraits of themselves, but cartoon style. I'm sorry, my brain just went beep. The crew of the Silver Star found nothing that explained the situation and planned to hook up the ship to tow it to the nearest port. But before they could do so, a fire broke out and in one of the cargo holds, and the would-be rescuers evacuated back to their own ship. Shortly afterwards, they saw the ship, the Ourang Mehan, explode and sink into the water, never be seen again. So that's common in stories like this, that the evidence disappears somehow. And in this case, it blew up and sunk. So no one will ever be able to prove there was such a ship. Though I don't know why, if it happened, why haven't they sent divers out? Maybe there's a video about that. Maybe divers have been sent out and thus proven there's nothing there. Or maybe the time period has been so long that, it's moved, which that happens too. Or maybe the idea is that it exploded and burned so much that there's nothing left. Who knows? But that'd been my next question. It says later versions of the story concluded that the date was actually February 1948, and the position of the ghost ship was instead in the Straits of Malacca in the Indonesia waters. The tale had apparently originated from a surviving German crew member of the Ourang who swam ashore to a place in the Marshall Islands. There he told a story to a missionary who in turn told it to Silvio Scarelli of Italy. So he's the one source for the story in the Dutch newspaper. The reason the crew member gave for the mystery was that the ship had been carrying an illicit load of sulfuric acid, and fumes escaping from broken containers had overpowered the crew. There have since been many other theories about what other top-secret cargo the ship may have been carrying instead, being not long after the end of the Second World War. A cargo of poisonous gases had been suggested. Except here's the thing. The same story came out in 1940 in other newspapers, and this person, Estelle, found that later. It says, if the incident occurred in 1947-48, the first reporting of it was in 1948, and the first mention in English was in the U.S. of 1952. Then how come I found British newspaper articles on the subject from 1940, written at least 7 years before the tragic was supposed to happen? Aha! Okay, and then this person gives evidence in their article of this. It says explosions, defeated boarding party, dead, no wounds. The Daily Mirror. The Daily Mirror, I've been trying to figure out, is that a newspaper that talks about factual things, or is that a tabloid that may take semi-factual and add fictional stuff to it? And they've been around a long time. The Daily Mirror, 22nd November 1940, crew dies in SOS mystery. That's 1940 November. The full pages just to show that they are indeed from 1940. And there's in this article that I'll share, you can go see them. These articles are available on an endlessly fascinating British newspaper archive if you want to check it out for yourself. The details in both reports are the same, although it's more expanded in the Yorkshire Post. The reason for this is they are both from the same source, the Associated Press. As the AP says, it's the world's oldest and largest news-gathering organization. If it originated there, I would speculate that there must be an awful lot more newspapers in the world who reported this story in November 1940. So then this writer goes on to share where the two places supposedly were and the differences between them. And It said in 1940 it's the Solomon Islands. In 1948 it's suddenly 1,300 miles north in the Marshall Islands, and finally it's located a whole 4,000 miles further west in the Strait of Malacca. I think it would be hard to have been so mistaken as to where the ship was found. Significantly, the SOS messages are marked differently. This is very interesting. The first says SOS from the steamship Ourang Mehan. Big ships with shortwave wireless. Get touch. Doctor. Urgent. The second, probable second officer dead. Other members crew also killed. Disregard medical consultation. You know the word. SOS, urgent assistant warship. The article says the ship then gave her position and ended with final incomplete message. Crew has. I suppose there's no need to mention warships the next time the story was dusted off in a post-war 1948. Another notable difference is that the story claims come directly from a merchant marine officer from the rescuing ship, not a washed-up survivor from the sunken ship telling his story to a missionary. That rescuing ship wasn't named here, and for that matter, it wasn't named in the 1948 version either. The detail of the Silver Star was thrown in later down the line on its journey from a newspaper report to legend. But I think this is the crux of the story, is that we have the same detailed information from Italy and was dated the very Thursday morning as well. In other words, the same day it appeared in the evening paper. Trieste is the crucial link. I think that's the name of the city. I'm not positive. I don't speak Italian, and I miss pronunciation of English up all the time, as you have heard. So Trieste is the crucial link, as we can therefore assume that Silvio Scarelli of Teresca is the same person involved in this story as he was in the later version. If he was the source of the 1940 story, then there's simply no way he could have truthfully reported on the matter in 1948, describing it as a new incident. It could be the case that there was another source of the story in Teresa in 1940, perhaps someone who had told it to Silvio. If the story came from Indonesia, then the sources could be numerous, but Tereste seems too specific, too distant to have many witnesses and other people who knew about the story from far away. The Associated Press archives and other newspaper stories which blossom from the reports may be the key here. Okay. The locomotive stated clearly that the entirety of the information came from Scarelli. It ended its series with a very skeptical. This is the last part of our story about the mystery of Ourang Mehan. We must repeat that we do not have any other data in this mystery of the sea, nor can we answer the many unanswered questions in the story. It may seem obvious that this is a thrilling romance of the sea. On the other hand, the author, Silvio Scarelli, has assured us of the truth of the story. Now, why am I doing these kind of things? Because I want to get our brains working, and there's a lot of stuff going on with, the virus and, in my case, the fires, and, just life has been, and then the election here in the Americans, so life has been a bit crazy, and then my fibromyalgia and other things like that, and sometimes I talk about things that seem a little more pressing. So I thought it'd be great if I tackle these mysteries. Now, I'm not trying to solve the mysteries. I'm just trying to get obscured stories and bring them to light, share things. And if I see things that are interesting, or if you have things you want to share that's interesting. My verdict on this is that a person told a story, whether they heard it from someone or not, came up with a story, told it, said it was true. Nobody really cared because it didn't have a whole lot of information to it. And then he told it again, and 8 years later, and he beefed up the story. He made it more dramatic, more interesting, more, more scary kind of thing. And then he published again, and people were very interested in it because, they had just coming out of a world war. And, whenever you could say that, oh, it was a German ship, people were like, oh, they were doing horrible things then. There's some other theories and stuff about that particular thing. One of them is that, like a Bermuda Triangle kind of thing, that something happened to that ship. And then the interesting thing to me is that the ship exploded and sank. And that always, destroying of evidence is always very popular in urban legends, so that you can't really follow them to find out what happened. The research ends, and it's really hard. Based on the fact that a lot of people tried to research this story, just in the 1950s, which was 10 years later from the 1940s, and then people have thus since then been researching it, is very intriguing to me. But all mysteries like that, people get, like, Bigfoot and Loch Ness and stuff, they get attached to it, and then they get where they really want to solve it. They either want it to be true, and they try so hard to prove that, or in the case it has to be false, and again they try to prove it. But because there's not enough information and it's considered a mystery, it's always going to be kind of floating in that weird realm of legend and somewhat truthful. So I think that probably there was a ship that died. Not ship died, but there was a ship, and everybody died on it from something. And the gas is just as probable, but could have been anything. And one person did survive, or a bunch of people survived, and they shared the story, and then they all died on these islands. And then that story came out of the islands. It's very possible that the story's older than the 1940s. It could be, and it just keeps morphing as we go through, as things become. It is harder, I think, in this day and age to create stories like that to make them believable. It's harder to say, oh, there's, even though we've had stories like that happen, like the big giant airplane that crashed in the ocean, it had that feel of it, like, we don't know why it went down, horrible things, here's the last message, and they disappeared. And I think that it intrigues us because, especially now in this day and age, but even further back when you didn't have the internet, and it was by word of mouth or newspaper that you learn these things, that it boggles our minds that things like this could happen, because we think of ourselves in the industrial age as being able to have connections that bring more information than normal. Anyway, so my verdict on this one, it is a fictional story, possibly was an older story of something that did happen way beyond 1940, and the person took the idea and made it into a better story. That's my opinion of it. I mean, I believe in, because I'm pagan, I believe in spirits and ghosts and things like that. So, but I just don't think that that's what this is about. I don't think that, it doesn't seem that the ship keeps popping up, which is what ghost ships do. They pop up and people see them, because then we would have had more of that popping up in times. Now, if they do it every 10 years or something, I mean, maybe, but I still personally think it's just a fictional urban legend. All right, so that's it. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you what the next one will be next month, because, it goes every 4 months. But my next vlog is going to be Rambling 101. And I don't know what, hopefully I'll still be here and we'll have a conversation here. Otherwise, if I do get evacuated and the fires get worse, then I'll be doing a vlog someplace else, probably on my tablet. And then I don't know if the vlogs will be continuous. And I don't think I'll be doing any streaming if I get moved someplace else. What I probably do is maybe do some live outdoor streaming. But I don't know, because I can only take so much with me. My electronics are going to go with me. We've already moved some of more important stuff. My older comic books went. But where I could take it, it was only a little bit of space. So it was some of the comic books, and my son's brand new PC went. If I have to leave here, I'm going to take my PlayStation, I'm going to leave my computer behind. I'm going to take my laptop and my tablet, the camera, my Cricut, and then whatever else the kids and stuff want. We're going to pack up our thing, but we have to leave behind the chickens and the cats and the dogs. All right, so that's it. I'll keep you all informed on that as well. So I'm out of here.